Caitlin Clark's clutch passes that silenced her haters. They said she was a scorer who couldn't make her teammates better. They said she held the ball too long, took too many shots, played hero ball when the moment got big. They said her game was built on volume, on ISO, on pulling up from distances that only work in college, and that the moment a real defense took that away from her, she'd have nothing left to give. They were so sure about it. They built whole arguments around it. They clipped the turnovers, counted the possessions, found every moment where the pass didn't come, and used it as evidence for a case they'd already decided to make. Well, Caitlin Clark had other plans, and the haters didn't just lose the argument, they got embarrassed by it. This is not a story about Caitlin Clark scoring. Why? This is a story about something rarer, something more devastating to the people who doubted her, something that cuts deeper than any long-range three she's ever buried. This is the story of her passes, the ones that shouldn't be possible, the ones that arrive before the defender even realizes the decision has been made, the ones that make her teammates look like a completely different team than they were 30 seconds ago, the ones that silence the people who built their entire critique around the idea that she couldn't or wouldn't give the ball up when it mattered most. Those passes are what we're talking about today, and by the time we're done, you will understand exactly why they represent the most complete rebuttal to her critics that she has ever delivered on a basketball court. Let's establish something first, as because context matters and the haters have been very selective about theirs. Caitlin Clark came into the WNBA with a target on her back that was unlike anything a rookie in this league had ever worn. She came in with the ratings, the attention, the sold-out arenas, the transformation of an entire sports media cycle. She came in as the face of a cultural moment that the league had been waiting decades to find, and she handled all of that without flinching, without shrinking, without adjusting her game to make anyone more comfortable. She played her game, she shot when she was open, she scored when she had to, and yes, in the early stretches of her professional career, there were possessions where she held the ball longer than she needed to, moments where the scoring instinct overrode the passing read, on nights where the transition from college star to professional playmaker showed its edges. Her critics took those moments and built a cathedral out of them. They declared her a one-dimensional offensive threat. They decided she would never be great at the passing game that separates good players from transcendent ones. They were wrong. The proof arrived in stages, quietly at first and then all at once, in moments so undeniable that the people who said she couldn't do it had nothing left to stand on. The first thing you have to understand about Caitlin Clark's passing is that it is not a separate skill from her scoring. It is the same skill. Her gravity as a shooter, the way defenses rotate toward her before she even catches the ball, on the way two defenders will abandon their assignments the moment the ball swings her direction, is the engine that powers every assist she records. She does not need to beat her defender to create. She needs to catch the ball, take one dribble, let the defense collapse like it always does, and find the open man before the rotation closes. That sounds simple. It is not simple. The window she's passing through is measured in fractions of a second and fractions of inches, and most players at most levels of basketball do not have the processing speed or the confidence to hit that window under pressure. She does. She does it with a casualness that looks almost careless until you slow it down and realize that every pass was the right pass, delivered at precisely the right moment, eyes to precisely the right spot on the floor so the receiver can catch and shoot without an extra dribble, without an adjustment step, without giving the defense time to recover. That is not luck. That is vision, and vision at that level is one of the rarest things in basketball. Let's talk about what her passing looks like when the game is close and the pressure is real, because that is where the haters always said she would disappear. They were not talking about her regular season mid-range assists and blowout wins. They were talking about the fourth quarter. Down by 4 with 3 minutes left. The defense swarming, the shot clock winding. The crowd loud in a way that makes communication impossible and forces every player on the floor to make decisions based on pure instinct. Those moments, they said in those moments she would revert. Fine, she would hold the ball, fire a shot, live or die on her own terms, and leave her teammates watching. What actually happened in those moments is the opposite of everything they predicted. When the defense cheated toward her with 2 bodies, she waited 1 beat longer than felt comfortable, let the second defender commit, and slipped the ball to a cutter who scored uncontested. contested. When the shot clock was dying and the only available shot was a contested pull-up, she pump faked, drew the foul on her defender, and found the corner 3 shooter who had gone completely cold all night. Knowing that the wide open look would reset his confidence and his shot, and she was right. When the game was tied in the final 2 minutes and every person in the building expected her to take the last shot, she set a screen off the ball, slipped to the elbow, or received a pass, and instantly fired a skip pass across the court to the corner that split 2 defenders and landed in her teammate's hands with the momentum already pointing toward the basket. The shot went in. The crowd lost its mind. The haters had nothing to say. There is a specific play, and if you have watched enough of her this season, you know exactly which one this is, where she is in pick and roll near the top of the key and the defense sends a third body her direction because 2 is apparently no longer enough to make her uncomfortable. 3 defenders rotating toward a single player should result in a turnover or a bad shot or at minimum a timeout to reset. What happened instead was a cross-court bullet pass thrown off her back foot against her momentum through a lane that was only open for about half a second. Oh, that hit her teammate in the exact spot she needed to be in to catch, turn, and score before the defense could recover. The teammate didn't even have to adjust her feet. The ball arrived at the right height, the right angle, the right velocity, and all she had to do was finish. That is the kind of pass that makes coaches stop practice to explain to players why they'll spend the next month trying to learn it. That is the kind of pass that makes broadcasters lose the professional composure they've spent careers developing. And that is the kind of pass that makes haters turn off the sound on their phones because they don't want anyone to hear what they're saying while they watch it. Her passing in transition is a different kind of violence. She pushes the pace at a speed that most point guards in this league don't attempt because the risk of the turnover in transition is real and the coaching staff will bench you for it if you make that mistake twice. She accepts that risk. She accepts it because she also accepts the responsibility of having the best handle and the best court vision and the best understanding of where the defense is going to be half a second from now of any guard on the floor. When she turns and runs in transition, the defense has a choice. Stay connected to their assignment and let her go all the way to the rim, or collapse on her and leave her teammates open on the wings. There is no third option. There is no defensive position that solves both problems at once, and she knows it. She has known it for years, has been exploiting it since college. Has refined the timing of it through thousands of repetitions until the decision is no longer a decision. It is a reflex, a read that happens before conscious thought catches up. So she runs and she waits and she makes the decision at the last possible moment when the defense has fully committed, and the pass she throws is not the one that looks open from the camera angle. It is the one that is going to be open by the time the ball arrives, thrown to a spot rather than a person, trusting her teammate to be exactly where the geometry of the play demands she be, and the teammate is always there because Caitlin Clark does not throw passes to where her teammates are. She throws passes to where they are going to be. That is the difference between a point guard who plays basketball and a point guard who sees basketball at a level that cannot be taught. The critics will say, because they always find something to say, that her assist numbers are only possible because of the shooting threats around her. They will say any point guard would put up assists with that kind of floor spacing, and they are partially right. The spacing matters, the shooters matter, the system matters. But here is what they leave out. The spacing exists in part because of what she does. Defenders cheat toward her because she has made them pay so many times for not cheating that they no longer have a choice. The floor is open because she has proven over and over in the biggest moments of the biggest games that leaving her open from 30 feet is a decision you will regret before the shot has even reached the top of its arc. She created the conditions that make her passing possible. She did not simply inherit them. The gravity that opens her teammates up is gravity she built. Reputation by reputation, make by make, across every game she has ever played. Her passing is not separate from her scoring. They are the same weapon operating in different modes. And the haters who tried to separate them and call one a flaw were never looking at the full picture. Now let's talk about what happens to a defense when it realizes both modes are fully operational at the same time. This is the part that doesn't get discussed enough because it requires requires watching a game in its entirety rather than clipping individual highlights. When a defense spends the first half trying to take away her shot and she responds by torching them with assists, they have to adjust. They have to bring the second defender back toward her shooters, which means she is no longer facing double teams on every catch, which means her shot is now open, which means the first three-pointer she launches in the second half, from a range that would be unreasonable for most players but is entirely routine for her, is going to go in. And the defender who gave her that space is going to spend the rest of the game trying to figure out which problem to solve first. There is no right answer. She has forced the defense into a position where both solutions create a different problem, and that is the definition of an unsolvable offense. That is what her critics missed. And they watched her score and said she couldn't pass. Then they watched her pass and said her scoring was a fluke. They never once considered that the combination of the two, the way each one makes the other more dangerous, is the whole point. The combination is the weapon, and they handed her the motivation to prove it. The game that lives in the minds of every single person who tried to dismiss her passing game is the one where she finished with 10 assists and the team shot 62% from 3. 10 assists in a WNBA game where defenses are specifically, deliberately, constantly designed to take the ball out of her hands and force her teammates to beat them instead. 10 assists means 10 times her teammates scored directly from a pass she made. That's 10 times the defense failed to close out in time, or misread where the ball was going, or simply could not react fast enough to stop the shot. And if you watch every single one of those 10 assists, the way the coaching staffs watch them, what you see is not 10 accidents. What you see is 10 deliberate, calculated decisions made under pressure, each one finding the right teammate at the right moment in the right spot, each one demonstrating a level of court awareness that the critics said she did not have and could not develop. 10 times they were right about who she was. She answered 10 times. You do the math. The haters are still out there. They will always be out there. That is the nature of what she has become. Too big to ignore, too successful to dismiss without an argument. It's too present in the conversation for anyone who built a reputation on doubting her to quietly walk away. So they adjust, they find new things, the arguments shift and move and mutate, looking for any foothold that still makes sense after everything she has done. But the passing game is closed. That argument is over. She buried it in real time, on real courts, in real games, against real defenses that were actively trying to stop her from doing exactly what she did. The receipts exist, the film exists, the 10 assist game exists, the cross-court bullet pass off the back foot exists, the fourth quarter find to the corner shooter who hadn't hit anything all night exists. Every single moment of doubt has a direct answer, and the answers were delivered on the biggest stages she has ever stood on. With the pressure at maximum and the whole league watching. This is what Caitlin Clark is. She is a scorer who passes and a passer who scores and a competitor who turns every doubt into fuel and every dismissal into motivation and every hater's tweet into a reason to stay in the gym an hour longer than she already planned to. She does not need them to believe in her. She has never needed that. What she needs is for them to keep talking, because every time they open their mouths, they give her something new to answer, and she has not missed an answer yet. The clutch passes that silenced her haters were not an accident. They were not luck. They were the product of everything she has ever worked for, delivered at exactly the moment the critics were most sure they were right, and they were magnificent. She is only getting better. The passing is only going to get sharper. The reads are only going to get faster. The windows she threads the ball through are going to get smaller, and she is going to keep hitting them anyway. And the haters are going to have to find something new to complain about, because this chapter of the argument is done. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Which assist was the one that finally made the haters go completely quiet for you? Hit like, subscribe if you haven't already, and stay locked in, because Caitlin Clark is nowhere close to finish making people look foolish for ever doubting her. Thanks for watching.